And if you see a woman out there that doesn't have a child, don't call her childless. Don't call her barren. Give her a hug. Hello, my precious ones. How are we doing? I trust we are all doing fantastic. I actually got a call from one of my viewers, and the conversation was quite interesting. After that conversation, I was compelled to do this video to create awareness once again to something that plagues our people. It is about infertility. He told me what he's been through. He told me the interventions they've had. He told me the challenges they've had as a couple since marriage. It was a very sad story. At the end, it was something he mentioned that stuck out to me. He said, if not for one thing, which I wouldn't mention, that he will no longer be with his spouse. Infertility is tearing up a lot of couples, especially in our community. There's so much ignorance about it. There's so much misconceptions about it. There's so much stigma about it. Because a woman that doesn't have a child, other women actually, in some cases, make fun of them. I can't understand that. I can't, for the life of me, understand that you will make fun of somebody because they don't have a child. They are not God. Neither did you have yours by your own doing. So it's a topic that begs discussion. We're going to talk about it today, but before we do, we're going to understand what is infertility, what are the causes, what can be done about it, what treatment options are available to the couple, and finally, we'll talk about ways that one can enjoy the love of a child, the love of a family. Well, I am Dr. Precious, and I'm here to discuss the topic of infertility as it plagues our people, especially one of my viewers. Why is this a topic of interest? Because while discussing with my viewer, I had words like demonic, I had words like ungodly, words like things like IVF is helping God. I had it all. And these are mindsets that we need to talk about. We need to educate people about. We need to create awareness about. So let's go ahead and start. What is infertility? Infertility is defined as a couple's inability to conceive after 12 months of trying, or after 6 months of trying if the woman is above 35 years of age. That is the definition of infertility. Now, there are two types of infertility. It can be an infertility due to a cause or unexplained infertility. There are people that just cannot have a child and nobody knows why or what the cause is. So in this case, I'm sure it must be very challenging because once you know what is causing it, at least there might be a chance to treat it. So now we have defined what is considered infertility. We are going to go into the causes of infertility. Of course, we have the male factor and the female factor. In the male factor, is a little bit more simplified. You look at the sperm that the male releases during intercourse. Now, the quality of that sperm matters. The motility of that sperm matters. The amount of that sperm matters. That's where you hear things like sperm count. I actually used to do that. I used to count sperm, so I know what it looks like under the microscope. and you actually see them swimming. Very interesting thing, but yeah, I did that. So back to the topic at hand. So this is what you look at when you are looking at the male part of the infertility. So you check this thing, you do the testing. And then, so if there's anything wrong with the sperm, the count, the quality of sperm, the motility, how they move, if there's anything wrong with it, then you start treating it from there. So infertility can be from a man, it can also be from a woman. With the male infertility, there are some factors also that is suspected to be involved in causing that. For example, smoking, drinking, genetics, of course, using laptop close to that area. So these are things that are suspected that could be culprit in causing the sperm not to be how they should be. So if it's something you're doing in excess and you're not able to conceive, you might want to consider cutting down. But that's, of course, you're still required to talk to your doctor, who will do the proper testing and be able to tell you if there's another cause or if it's lifestyle related. Now let's go to the part of the woman. The part of the woman is a little bit more complicated, but stay with me, we're going to get through it. Now, if you haven't liked this video at this point, please like, share, comment, engage, so we can have this discussion together. You may be somebody that have gone through infertility and finally something worked for you, or you have an input, or you have a discussion and advice. Please, I welcome you to comment down below or share this video, so somebody that might be going through it, we have an opportunity to see it. Back to the video. So in female, there's a few things that can cause infertility. Number one, it could be due to, before I discuss that, let me give an overview of the female reproductive system. Very briefly, not in detail. Of course, we all know the shape of the ovaries, the fallopian tube, and the uterus. I'll put the picture somewhere here. We know how it works. And then the vaginal area below that. When sperm is deposited in the vaginal area, of course, it travels through the uterus, goes into the fallopian tube. Now, if the ovaries have released an egg, it goes into the fallopian tube as well, and they meet and fertilization happens. After it happens, it now travels to the uterus and gets planted. After it's planted, baby begins to grow. At that point, I think it's called an embryo, and eventually becomes a baby. So that's how it happens. Now, if there's anything wrong with one of those areas, of course, it's going to make pregnancy difficult or not at all. Now, at the opening of the cervix, there could be a blockage, maybe a polyp. Polyp is something that can block the opening, but your gynecologist can easily remove that. It's not a major surgery. There could be scarring in the uterus or in the fallopian tube. That is how you start hearing things like blocked fallopian tube. So these things can be caused due to inflammation, maybe due to sexually transmitted disease that wasn't properly handled, or maybe handled too late. It can cause scar tissue to form. It can cause things to happen that will make it difficult for one to conceive. Maybe due to the walls of the uterus not being how it should be, thereby making implantation difficult. There can also be fibroid. If I remember, in this channel we covered fibroid. So I'm sure I don't need to talk about that, because if you're following me, you know all there is to know about fibroid. So fibroid could be another reason for infertility. Depending on how it is, it may not be. So one can still have fibroid and still be able to have a child or children, but in some cases, it can also be a reason for infertility, depending on where it is, how big it is. And even when there is conception, it may affect the baby's growth, depending on how big it is and things like that. So infertility is another one of them. Now there's hormones. When you have something like thyroid disease, hormone is affected, hormone imbalance. Things like PCOS, I'm sure you've heard about that term before. It can be a problem. Things like increased prolactin secretion, it can also stop one from conceiving, because these things will affect the ovaries and cause it not to maybe release eggs. It shall affect the ovaries. So these are some things that can cause a woman not to be able to conceive. So that is why it's important to be mindful who you're mating with, to protect yourself. Make sure that these sexually transmitted disease are not something that will affect you. And if it does, make sure you get it treated immediately. Because yes, it can be a problem when you're ready to have children. Another one is endometriosis. Endometriosis is when you see the lining of the uterus elsewhere. It causes painful menstruation, and most of the time can also affect the quality of egg. Endometriosis is a big issue, but the good news is most of these things, once diagnosed, there are treatment options, and your doctor will be able to guide you accordingly. So moving forward, let's talk about the testing. I'm sure there might be other causes of infertility that I haven't mentioned, but at least we had a good sum up of what causes infertility. Now, how is it tested? I've already mentioned testing the sperm, quality of sperm, and things like that. Now, in the female, there will be blood test, imaging, and things like that. When needed, there could be surgery. Surgery may be done for the woman, and there are drugs that can be given that will be able to alleviate some of these things. So I'm sure you've heard about drugs like Clomid. Is actually quite popular, the one that makes everybody have twins. At least I think that's what people know it for. So there are other drugs, FSH. So there are drugs that can be used. There is surgery. There's other ways. There's a lifestyle modification, losing weight, because believe it or not, weight loss or too much weight can affect infertility. Stress is a big one. Once again, we're talking about stress. Are you seeing a trend? Stress. So let's make sure we're taking measures to decrease our stress. Lifestyle modification, see your doctor, and hopefully there will be a solution to the infertility. Now let's move on to the emotional part of it. When people are going through infertility, it's like they get isolated. The woman especially begins to feel like, is there anything that I did wrong? Is something wrong with me? A feeling of not being included. Things like that. So let's be sure that we have a support system. I believe in my video, 5 ways to be happy, I mentioned the importance of community. If you haven't watched that video, please check it out. Community is very important. Not being isolated. And my sisters, my beautiful sisters, if for any reason you're not able to have a child, it's not your fault. It's not the life is not over because of it. There are solutions. There are other ways that you can do it. Get yourself educated. Ask questions. See your doctors. Find out your options. And you'll be able to enjoy a wonderful life with a beautiful child. I made a video before this one, and I talked about those things. I talked about the way people may view it and my thoughts about it. So there are ways to do it. There is IVF. There is IUI. There's other ways that you can have a child. There is sperm donor. There is egg donor. Depending on what the case may be, these are ways that can help you. And let's say all that fails, or there's no means for all that. You can adopt. There is adoption. There is adoption. And let's still say after all that, you don't want to adopt, or those things didn't come to play, you can still have a meaningful life without a child. There's no place that it says unless you have a child, your purpose in life is not fulfilled. There is other purpose for life. So I want to encourage you. You are not alone. A lot of women are dealing with the same thing. Don't blame yourself. Don't feel isolated. Don't feel depressed. See it as a challenge that eventually you will overcome. Pray. Get strength. If you need to get counseling, community is very important. Surround yourself with people that encourage you and not those that will tear you down. So that is what I came here to say. This brings us to the conclusion of this video. We talked about infertility. We talked about causes. We talked about possible solutions. We talked about the way to test it. We talked about treatments in case it's something that doesn't need those other extreme measures. So, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Thank you for watching. Share this video so people will get enlightened about what they're dealing with, or what their sister, their mother, their sister-in-law may be dealing with, and it will help people to be more empathetic. And if you see a woman out there that doesn't have a child, don't call her childless. Don't call her barren. Give her a hug. Allow your children to play with her, to be close to her. Allow her send your children message. That is what community is all about. You see, this world is not so hard. It's people that make it so hard. Choose love. Choose kindness anytime you can. Thank you so much for watching, and may God bless you. Don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe, because we'll be coming up with more things. We still have some medical questions that we haven't answered yet. We still have some lifestyle things. We still have some wellness that are coming up. So stay tuned, and we will keep taking this journey together. Bye.